Or in your hands.
So thank you for having us. I just want to acknowledge, first of all, that, we write these presentations in isolation, and obviously that was a big conversation that we've just listened to. So I'm just conscious that this is going to be quite a segue. So bear with me, because I do think it is really important that we also spend a bit of time acknowledging the positive position that we find ourselves in as a city. So look, I want to start with that. I recently visited Wellington with Leanne Watson from Business Canterbury, and what we heard really consistently was how strong our reputation is as a city with momentum, and you're going to hear that word a lot, momentum, throughout this presentation. So we are in great shape, and we are the envy of most, if not all, other urban centres in the country. And I've picked just a few stats to outline this, although there are many others I could have chosen. So as a city, and we talk about this quite often, of mostly carers, makers and traders, we have tended to have lower productivity rates than other main centres. However, we also have a more diverse and therefore more resilient economy than the rest of New Zealand, which has helped us to do better in tough times. And you can see this in that top box there, where Canterbury has ranked as the strongest performing regional economy in New Zealand for 6 consecutive quarters. The second thing is that people living in Christchurch score higher than other cities on a range of quality of life metrics. They're less likely to want to move, and they think their city is a great place to live, rating well above residents of Wellington and Auckland. Canterbury has had the highest rate of domestic migration for the past 2 years. The Great Southern Migration is a real thing, with 42% of Kiwis open to moving to Christchurch. And I haven't included the stats here around tertiary education, but Canterbury is also increasingly attractive for young people. Enrolments are down 17% at the University of Auckland, 12% at Victoria and 8% at the University of Otago, while at the University of Canterbury enrolments have hit record highs 2 years in a row, and the halls of residence at both UC and Lincoln are both at full capacity. And visitors are coming back in big numbers. Increased air connectivity with the US and China and the resurgence in cruise saw December and January this summer as the 2 biggest ever months in terms of visitor spending. So why are we in such a strong position as a city? There are, of course, many reasons, but I just want to touch on a few. Firstly, our infrastructure is strong, with Te Pai, Turanga, Naval Point, our cruise terminal and Riverside Market, to name just a few. And with Te Kaha and Parakiori on the way, our offering is only getting stronger. Secondly, the jobs we have on offer here, our startup ecosystem is thriving. You'll remember last year we shot up the Startup Blink global rankings. Job growth is stronger than the rest of New Zealand here in Christchurch, and we have healthy ecosystems around promising sectors such as aerospace and health tech. Thirdly, we've proved that we can host mega events here as a city, and more are on the way or have expressed new interest in coming here. And of course, our cost of living and the cost of doing business is advantageous compared to other major centres. Christchurch really is a city where you can have it all. And the city is well positioned to capitalise on this moment because of the decisions that you as a council have made in the past. It was brave and took foresight to combine the operations of CDC, Christchurch and Canterbury Tourism, major events from the council, international education, Antarctic and Screen Canterbury to create Christchurch, New Zealand. And of course, the latest brave strategic decision was to add urban development as a function to ChristchurchNZ. You saw the opportunity that urban development had to contribute to economic development, and we're really starting to see the benefits of this coordinated approach in the last few months. I mentioned at our last quarterly briefing that we're keen to come and talk to you about several big economic opportunities that we're working on, which really leverage all the tools in our toolkit. These are obviously commercially sensitive, so we're setting up a PX session in the next few weeks, so you can really see the tangible opportunities we're facilitating on behalf of the city. And look, I don't say this lightly, but through feedback from central government, industry bodies and other EDAs around the country, I can confidently say that your economic development agency is really leading the way in New Zealand. Alongside the city momentum, you've directed us to create a clear vision and framework for the city's economic future. And in the last 18 months, we've developed and implemented the city identity, destination management plans, and most recently, the Christchurch Economic Ambition. And all 3 of these city frameworks have informed our strategy and ultimately what you see in our statement of intent. And part of developing our strategy was to get crystal clear on the logic behind our planned interventions. We have limited resources, and we need to be really targeted in how and when we engage. Our intervention logic is clear. We don't get in the way of the private sector, and we do not duplicate what the private sector or other organisations are doing. We look for areas of market failure or opportunity that need a boost, and we get involved through time-bound, focused interventions that have significant impact. And to do this, we have to be a good partner, whether it's working with council and venues Utatahi on the events ecosystem, property developers and the council urban development team on how we maximise our combined resources, or travelling to Wellington on a joint mission with Business Canterbury. We can't deliver our city's economic vision alone. And we also want to deliver a balanced portfolio of short-term and long-term interventions, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. But before I do that, a reality check. As of course you know only too well, times are really tough for councils across the country, and Christchurch is no exception. The previous debate really emphasises the rock and the hard place that we find ourselves between. So how do we continue our momentum in this space with limited funds? We really appreciate that in the draft LTP you have signalled an intention to keep our shareholder investment at the same level as last year. We understand that this is a vote of confidence at a time of belt tightening. However, even with your funding remaining the same, we are looking at a realistic 23% reduction in expenditure next year, or 5.5 million. And that's been driven by three factors. Central government COVID funding has largely come to an end. Our reserves have been depleted, as instructed by Council, in order to help the city through the pandemic. And whilst we're in a recession, it is a really tough time to find third-party funding from the private sector. It doesn't mean we won't keep trying, and we're confident our external income streams will improve over time, but next year is likely, like you, to be when we feel the pinch. And so it is just worth noting that our reduced budget means that our KPIs will be simplified and focused in this SOI, and work is underway to understand the impacts of this at present. As I mentioned earlier, one of our key principles as an agency is to deliver a balanced portfolio of interventions that achieve the highest outcomes for the city. And over the past few years, central government COVID funding has distorted the balance of our portfolio towards events and visitor attraction. Now, obviously, we would have preferred to achieve balance by maintaining our investment in destination and attraction whilst increasing investment in our longer-term business and urban development programmes. The LTP process has clearly highlighted this is not possible. So to achieve the vital balance that we need, we've retained the level of investment in business and urban development programmes, resulting in reduced investment in events and visitor economy interventions. Focusing on large-scale, longer-term opportunities is the right strategic approach. However, it is likely to lead to quite lumpy KPI results. Large strategic opportunities may take a number of years to deliver, and they may not always come to fruition, but we want to be ambitious for the city, or we believe it's the right thing to do. As I said earlier, we'll come and brief you in PX on some of those opportunities. We have a paper on 5 in particular that are key projects in the pipeline, and we're looking to schedule that as soon as we can. Look, just to wrap up, before I hand over to Therese, as you outlined in your expectations for the long-term plan, Christchurch is a fantastic city that is on the move. We have really strong fundamentals, some comparative advantages that won't always last as other cities refresh their infrastructure, but we're really well positioned to take advantage of this moment. So thank you for your time. I'm going to hand over to Therese to talk a little bit from her end.
Hello, everyone. I'm sitting here to speak very briefly to my very last statement of intent. And I'm slightly nostalgic in regards to this, and I looked back at our very first letter of expectations that dates back to 2016, when this organization was created. And as I read it, and then the statement of intent that came from it, the thing that profoundly struck me was how far the city has come and how far this organization has come. And it really was due to the vision of the shareholder throughout that this happened. As I think back now, I wish I could have seen the slides that Ali put up first up in terms of where the city is at now. because of course when we were formed it was 5 years into the rebuild and we were doing it hard. And it's really exciting to see where we've gotten to. I do think the key going forward for this organization to carry on doing the good work that it's doing is to keep the momentum going and to remember we're always stronger together than apart. So cross-fertilization within the organization and with our partners like VO and the council is really fundamental to success going forward. So that balanced slide that Ali put up last, I think is really important to understand. It's not just a balanced approach. What we have now is an integrated approach. Those areas are intertwined. And the addition of the UBD function was the last and I think vital piece of the puzzle for us. The game changers that Ali mentioned, and we'll come and talk to you about in Public Excluded. The interesting thing there is that every part of our team have their fingerprints on it. And so we are now an integrated organization based solely, the overarching piece is around economic development for the city. We have an ability to work fast and slow, short, medium, and long-term outcomes. Reporting to the board has now shifted from talking about what the different teams have done to reporting based on the outcomes that we're looking for. And I think you can expect that in the reporting to this council going forward. So all of this, I think, and I want to acknowledge, goes back to a very brave ambition that came from the shareholder. And as my last thing, in terms of my last SOI, I just want to thank you.
You good? Thank you very much, Therese. I'm sure it won't be the last time we see you before you.
No, but it's my last SOI, I think.
No, appreciate it. We certainly appreciate everything you've done and continue to do for not only us but for the city. It's you are wonderful. So what we need to do before we go to questions is we just need a technical, because we've had a long morning, we either need to stop the meeting for 10 minutes or just move that we carry on through to 1 o'clock. So I think David's going to put a resolution up. Okay, so everyone's happy if we just extend the meeting till 1 o'clock. It's just a technical thing. So I'm happy to move it. Yep. Cool. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Great. Okay, have we got any questions for the ChristchurchNZ team?
Have you moved this? Have you moved this thing?
Are you happy to move it?
I'll move it.
Tim's happy to move it. Kelly will second it. Any questions for the team? Tim? Yep.
Yeah, first of all, Therese, thank you. I've shared the journey with you, although you've done all the work and made us look
No,
good,
no,
so
no,
thank
you were important.
Well, that's the first time. But look, appreciate, Ali, what you're saying, and the work that the team are doing is outstanding. But it is sadly a time that we've all got to tighten our belts, and it'll just be extra creative about how we get forward with less. So, but thank you both very much for what you do, and please pass that on to your teams. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't always get to give out bouquets. I just want to say thanks so much to ChristchurchNZ. It's not related to this specifically, but also around your urban regeneration work. I think it's outstanding, and you know, it's great when we hear positive feedback from communities about their interactions and the visibility of the work as well. I just think it's been second to none. So I just want to say thanks so much to you and your teams for leading that.
Thank you.
Thanks
That means a lot.
That's been moved and seconded. Any debate? All in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you
Thank
both
you.
very much for coming in. And to the team that are here. Great. VO, do you want to come on up?
We'll leave the table.